I left from that interview and I just kept thinking, what is it that I have to give, that children need, that youngsters need, that I can give, and I'm not giving it because I don't have space?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Breach Podcast, and thanks to each and every single one of you that come back every single week to listen, learn, and grow. Now, you all know how exciting it is to pack up your bags, say your goodbyes, and travel across the world to start life in a new country. But the thing we often don't realize is that there are some unique challenges that you will encounter in your new country. Each week on this podcast, I either bring to you the leader of an organization that provides settlement and integration services to newcomers, or I bring you an individual whose story and mission and purpose is so unique and so inspiring that I want to get them to share their stories with you. My guest today is Miss Sylvia Morrison. She packed her bags. She wasn't born in Canada. She packed her bags from her home country of Jamaica, moved over to Canada several years ago, but then decided to move away from Canada to start a mission in a completely different country. She's here today. She's going to share her story with us. She's going to tell us why she moved away from Canada while everybody is coming here and so much more. Thank you so much, Sylvia, for being here with me today. It's an honor to have you on the platform.
Same for me, Ida. It is an honor to be here with you. I'm really inspired by what you're doing. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, Sylvia is the founder of Links Across Borders, and that is an organization that helps people in Ghana. They've actually built like 8 libraries plus in Ghana, and they are helping children there to kind of bridge some gap within the educational
Mhm.
system for kids, but from her personal journey, her personal story.
Mhm.
Sylvia, the part I want to get started with is your own story of being born and raised in Jamaica and then
Yeah.
moving over to Canada.
Yes. Uh-huh. Good place to start. So I was born in Jamaica and I was already in my mid 30s when I decided to move to Canada. I had come to Canada to visit on one of my, I was a teacher in Jamaica. So, in the summer holidays, we have like 8 good weeks. And I thought, oh, I'd come to visit. And I came to visit and visited with my sister and her family and really liked the place. And then I came back to visit another year. And I think it was the third time that I came back to visit that one of my nieces said, Auntie, we wish you would just live here with us. And I thought about it and I went back home thinking about it. And so I shared with my partner and my husband and children. I had 2 small children at the time. So I shared with him about us, what his idea about us moving. And the short of that story is we decided that we would move to Canada. And so I came before him, and then afterwards the family came together here. Yeah.
So, what was it like when you just came to Canada?
so, so I remember one of the things about Canada that really intrigued me was because I'm from Jamaica. We are used to just being in the natural environment all the time. And I came, and one of the things that struck me, and it might sound weird, but I know there was a construction happening close to the area where my sister lived. I was visiting with her and her family. And I noticed that the building got completed. And the following day, I noticed that the lawn was perfect. Like a perfect lawn had grown. In my
Mhm.
mind, it grew overnight. And I thought, oh my gosh, in this place, grass just grows perfectly and it grows in these shapes. Like, wow, it's amazing. That was one of the things. Yes,
You must
I
have
was like,
said,
yeah,
I must be in paradise right now for
yeah,
things to just grow like overnight.
it just grew overnight, but it was perfect. Like no one blade of grass was taller than the other, none was leaning over. Like they were just, now I know it was sod. They had put sod
Yes.
down. But I had passed that afternoon and it was just mud and dirt from the construction,
Mm.
and men were working. And the next morning when I went out, I saw a perfect lawn. Like I couldn't understand it. So I just thought
Mhm.
this is miraculous. I'd love to live in this country. I'd never seen that before.
That was a very good first impression.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
when you moved over, you were in Toronto, correct?
Yes, I was in Mississauga.
What part did community play for you in your journey, like when you came here? Just the people you met, maybe the organizations you got in contact with.
hmm I'd love to talk about one of the organizations. In fact, that was the main organization that supported me in finding my feet and getting grounded. And it was the Congress of Black Women. I found out about the Congress of Black Women very early because, as much as my sister and her husband were very happy to have me live with them for as long as I wanted to, they would have had me living there with them. For me, I wanted to be able to find my feet and make my way in this country and start building the life that I wanted. And they weren't so knowledgeable about what's available and where to go for this or that. But there were women, there were two sisters in particular who I learned a lot from quite quickly. Um, and they were members of the Congress of Black Women in Mississauga. And so I quickly became a member of the Congress of Black Women and learned a lot about what's possible and how to make connections. And um, after a while, in fact, the first place that I rented and moved into on my own was a building in Mississauga that the Congress of Black Women founded and built with, of course, with government support. They built it, but it was led by the Congress of Black Women. It still is a project of the Congress of Black Women.
Does that organization still exist?
Yes, yes,
And what is it?
they have chapters all over Canada. Yes.
Oh, I've
hmm
never actually heard of it. What is it they do?
So, well, the Congress does various things. It's mainly about helping families to get um, grounded and supported here and finding community, for Black women who are looking to find their way. They run educational programs for children because I remember I used to volunteer in some of those programs. They have this house in well, not a house, it's an apartment building here in Mississauga where some parts of the building are subsidized, some are market value, but it's a beautiful, beautiful place. Um, what else do they do? It really is focused around family, a lot of advocacy and education, I'd say, and community organizing. Yeah,
That's beautiful. You
yeah,
you were very fortunate to find them when you came here because then that puts you on the path to
yes,
to
yes.
being okay.
hmm And I
So,
didn't find them right away,
uh
but by the time I found them, it was perfect.
how
Yes.
did you find them?
Two of the women who were members of a church that I was going to at the time. So I met them at church and they told me about the Congress and I started going I visited. And to become a member you would have to at least have visited as a guest at one meeting, and then after that you can apply to join. Yeah. So there's a membership fee and you pay the membership. They have monthly meetings. Um, they have a scholarship fund that students would get to go into post-secondary.
Mhm.
And there's also a scholarship at one point in time for single moms, soul support moms. And then there was another scholarship that they um, started later, I think, for someone who would want to go back into, I don't remember if it's nursing or something like that. But yes, lots of ways in which you support someone in getting started or getting back up is
Okay.
what they do. You should
So
check them out. It's a
I
Congress
will.
of Black Women. Yes.
And we're gonna get into a second part of your story, which is then you finding your purpose. But a
Yeah.
question about the services that this organization offers.
Mm-hmm.
While you were with them, I know they would provide services like helping people, like just with the settlement. Is
Yes.
there any part of it that kind of teaches people how to handle themselves, like personal finance, like doing your taxes, like stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that? Do they?
Yes. So from time to time, they would invite guests to come in. So people with expertise in certain areas. So let's say financing, they would invite a guest to come in, and that might be the presentation that is happening at that meeting. So because each monthly meeting, yes, we're gathering as members to connect with each other, but there was always an educational component. And that was how many people got to learn about different things that are available. So somebody might be coming in this week, it might be about taxes. Next time it might be about retirement. Another time it might be about, RSPs. Another time it might be, I remember when they brought somebody in to talk about death and how to prepare for your funerals. And I'm like, people were just weirded out by that. Like, why? We are not dying. Yeah. But even though many of us were weirded out by it, many of us realized afterwards it's okay to go ahead and plan these things and buy your spot and all of that. Even I bought my spot, and now I
You
have
bought your spot in what?
bought a spot, and I'm not going to use it.
A spot in what?
A spot for my funeral, for my
Oh
grave.
my goodness. I would be totally weirded out by that.
Yes, so all of that. So yeah, folks would come in to, provide information and education around a lot of things. Sometimes it's a fun thing they're coming in, like somebody might be coming in, we're doing drumming, and we have somebody who is coming in to talk about that and show it, and we practice, and yeah.
All right,
Yes.
beautiful. So then, moving from Jamaica, you came to Canada to live here and settle here and be with your family.
Yes,
What?
happily.
Yeah. Then what is it that made you to take the other journey going out?
So and I love Canada. I do. And I've learned a lot here. And how did I then, the idea to be that took me to do this leap started for me in my 40s. I remember going, so my early 40s. I remember going on a trip, on an internship to Cuba with a group of other students. I was studying at George Brown College at the time. And I didn't want to do a placement that was, one in the GTA, or because I had done so much in my life already. I wanted to do something that was completely out of my comfort zone. And I wanted to study the revolution. And that was the closest I could get to it. I had read much about it. I wanted to. So I went with this group of students, and we did our placement in Cuba. And on that trip, I met this man who was an artist. And he said that he wanted young people to learn art, but there wasn't enough funding. Government wasn't providing enough funding so that they could have enough art programs for children, especially the children in his part of the country. And so what he did was he turned his house into an art space. So he had a room that was the gallery. He had a space that was the room they would be learning in. So there would be things on the wall like it's a classroom. Mm-hmm. And then he had, the studio. And then outside in the yard, there were various different points where they would be doing different kinds of art. It was mainly visual arts. And I remember asking him, so where do you live? And he opened the door to one of the rooms in the house. And he said, I live here. But it was a small room. So I said, you live in just that room? And he said, yes. I said, but this is your house. He said, yes, this is my house. And this is the art studio. And this is the gallery. And this is the museum. And he kept going on. And I said, but isn't that a very small space for you to be in? And I remember his exact words were, why would I need so much space when there are children who need to learn art, and I have art in me, and I have this space in which I could teach it?
Wow.
Yeah. And that stayed with me. I left from that interview and I just kept thinking, what is it that I have to give, that children need, that youngsters need, that I can give, and I'm not giving it because I don't have space? Because that's what I'm thinking. You're using your whole house for this, and you're living in one small room. And so I kept thinking, what do I have that children need? And I'm thinking that I don't have the space or the resources to give it. And so it stayed with me. And then I started thinking, okay, I'm just going to help him. I'm going to buy art supplies, and I'm going to go back to Cuba, and I'm going to help him. And so I did that. I gathered art supplies. The first year after I came back, I spoke to many people, and I gathered supplies, and I even raised money and sent off to him. And I was sharing with a friend of mine saying, I really want to go down and I would love to work with this, but I'm not an artist. I'm not an artist. I can barely draw stick people. I don't speak Spanish, and I am not going to learn fast enough to be fluent. So I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? And she said to me, but you have always said that you would love to go to Africa. Wouldn't it be easier for you to do something like that in Africa?
Yeah.
And it like the way you just said, yeah, and it felt like, yeah, like comfortable, like I've come home. Yes. And I thought, yes, that is the answer to the question I've been asking myself. What is it that I have that I can give to children or youngsters that I am thinking I don't have the resources or the space for? And so I started now dreaming about what can I do in Africa, where in Africa, and how? And so when you do that, when you are asking the question, and you're not asking the question out there, but you're asking the question in here, the answer emerges in its own time. And so that went on for me for about 2 years. The question that I was asking inside myself was there for about 2 years. Wow. And then in 2006, something said, this is the year to go to Africa. And I had to pick a place because somebody asked me, where in Africa are you going? And I said, Ghana, and I think part of the reason why I was able to make the leap to Ghana is that I had been supporting some children for school already.
Yes.
Yes. And, to be honest, I had always been supporting children because, this company called World Vision, even at a time when I didn't have money, I had a sponsored child. And I was giving World Vision $30-something every month for many, many years. Mm-hmm. And so when I thought about going to Ghana, I was still giving money to them at that time and also helping these children in Ghana. And then it was when I was preparing to go to Ghana in 2006, for the first time, I thought, wow, it would be nice if I could see the children that I was supporting through World Vision, the
Yeah.
child. And that couldn't happen. And because, of course, my child was actually in East Africa and I was going to West Africa. And then I decided the following year that I would go to East Africa. So I was going to Uganda. And I told World Vision that I was going to Uganda and would they please connect me with my child? And a long story short, they said no.
Why? It's against their policies to.
No, it's not against their policy, but the process would be too long.
Okay.
That
Okay.
was the story. But
So you finally did not go to Uganda,
I went to Uganda.
but you did not meet.
I didn't see my World Vision child, and I stopped supporting World Vision after that because I didn't need anybody to connect me to African children. I had more than I could support.
Yeah. So when we were talking on the in the previous episode, well, not previous episode, we did an interview before,
Yes,
and you had explained to me your whole journey from getting on the airplane and meeting this lady who then
yes,
connected you with her mother,
yes.
whom you ended up living with for a really long time. Guys, that's an incredible story. If you want to listen to the rest of Sylvia's personal story of how she got on the plane and chose Ghana, and I'm gonna put the link to it in the description below so you can click and watch that video that we did together. I have here finding your purpose. Like
Yes.
going
Mhm.
to Cuba made you discover this love for.
Yes, that I wanted to do something for humanity that was different than what I had been doing before.
Yes.
Mr. Pellegrin was his name, and he really, and he wasn't doing that to say to me, do this. He was just talking about his life, and but that really stayed with me, and I realized that, yeah, we each have this in us to make a difference. And I looked at, no, I'm not rich, and I didn't have, it's not like I had more than I needed, but I thought I can do something. And so when I went to Ghana that first time, it solidified for me in my mind that I can do something that will be impacting these children's lives in a profound way, even though I'm not a millionaire yet, you know.
Yet.
That yet is very
Very
important.
important.
You know. And so, yeah, so I decided that I would do something. And I noticed, and the thing, about when we're finding our purpose, your purpose is just something that lights you up, really. It's something that lights you up. You just feel really good when you do it. You see it making a difference in people's lives, and it makes you feel good. That's the first part of it.
Yes.
Because when you are experiencing that, then whatever the barriers are that will show up, you find a way through it. That's how it has been for me. The barriers show up, and it just makes it more interesting because I know that this thing I'm doing, I love it. It's making a difference in people's lives, and I'm going to continue to do it.
That's beautiful. And I like the fact that you really defined it properly. Like finding your passion is actually that thing that lights you up. It's your bigger why.
Yes,
And then your passion then becomes the thing you're doing in order
yes,
to fulfill your purpose. That becomes
yes.
your passion. And once you're
Mhm.
doing that, those things together, you would always find a way to
Yes,
overcome the obstacle. But the
yes.
difficult thing though is, how do I find my passion? A lot of people struggle with that. Do you have tips for anyone trying to figure out, how do I find my purpose? How do I find what I'm passionate about?
Yes. I say put yourself into places where you don't know everything about it. And what I mean by that is there are those of us who get up every day and we have our coffee at this time, we get into the car, we drive to this office, we come back home, we pick up our kids, then we walk the dog, it's the same thing. You might not notice it, but you really are just doing the same thing every day. If that is not the thing that lights you up and you're feeling like, what is my purpose? Get out of your comfort zone and go do something different. I'm not saying leave your job. I'm saying probably take your vacation to a different place this time. Maybe instead of doing the sea and sun vacation this time, just say, I'm going to go volunteer someplace. Say I'm going, because what will happen is that you will see something or you will hear something that will cause a inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it causes you to start thinking. You start getting ideas of something. And just allow the question, just like I was walking with that question inside of myself for about 2 years. What is it that I have that I can give to children or do for children or with children that I am thinking that I don't have the resources or the space for? It was just a question. I wasn't asking anybody. It was in myself. When the answer emerged, I knew.
Yes.
And I wasn't jumping up and down saying, oh, I found the answer. I found it. No, but you just, you just know. Because in fact, I'm not walking around every day thinking consciously, oh, there's this question that I need to answer, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it really is about us becoming present in our lives. Like, don't just go through your life not noticing what's happening around you. Maybe at work, in the job that you are, there are things happening with your colleagues, with your supervisor, your manager, or your peers, you know. And because you are noticing what's happening in their life, you might see where there is a gap that you can fill.
Yes.
Because you're noticing. You know, I remember working somewhere at one point in time, and I worked many jobs that were not my passion or my calling. But there was always a part of me operating in those spaces. That was my passion for transformation. I remember working at a particular place where I was a quality analyst. And before I became a quality analyst, I had never heard that term before. So that means I had never gone to a school that trains quality analysts.
That was here in Canada?
Yes.
Okay.
Because as an immigrant, I did lots of jobs.
Yes.
Lots.
We all do.
Lots of jobs. I loved packing boxes. Oh my gosh. So, but I was working at this particular place, and I remember that there was one colleague who was going through a very difficult time in her life. Her marriage had just fallen apart. And, you know, we were just colleagues at work, and we would be chatting. And I'm not a marriage counselor or any kind of counselor at the time, as far as I knew. But I remember one day as we were talking, she said to me, Sylvia, why is it that you work here? And I said, what do you mean? We all work here for the same reason. We want to get a paycheck.
Yes.
And she said, yeah, but I'm sure you could get a paycheck doing something better. And I said, well, I didn't have access to something better right now. That's why I'm here. And then she said to me, do you have a plan to leave? And I said, I don't have a plan, but I will leave when the time comes. And she said, I know why you're here. You're here for me. And as soon as I am better, you will leave. Yes. I didn't realize that our conversations day after day were helping her through this difficult time that she was having. Because there are times when, you know, she would present a question to me about what was going on for her. And I would share the insights that come to my heart as we are talking. And that is something that I have built on over the years. And I do in my work now with my clients. But back then, I never called myself a coach or an empowerment specialist or any of that.
Yeah.
And she was right. The week that I told her that I had decided to leave and that I was handing in my resignation, she said to me, I told you you would leave when I am better. I was going to tell you today that I have found this place that I'm moving to, and that these various things that were going on in her life that we had talked about many times, how they had worked out for her.
Wow.
Yes. So sometimes you find your passion by supporting someone in what they're going through. You realize that you have the skill or the knowledge for something that someone else needs, and that you do it with ease without even noticing. So sometimes somebody else will show you what your passion is if you would be present with others, you know? Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm actually getting chills as you're speaking right now. I don't know about you, and I don't know about you, the listeners, but I believe a lot of things that maybe a lot of people don't believe. I
Mm,
believe I'm a spiritual being having a human experience.
yes.
And when I get into that mood, it's like there's something shivering within me. So as you were talking, I was getting that.
Mm-hmm.
So where is she now? Have you guys stayed in contact with each other?
We haven't. We stayed in touch for a couple of years after we had both separated from the company, but I don't know where she is now. But I've often thought about her.
Yeah.
I'd love to know how she's doing. I really
You
would.
should,
Yeah.
because that's the one person who unknowingly, because you're talking about it now and it's bringing all
Yes.
the shivers and all those great memories. It's
Yes.
it's the person who kind of helped you
That's
find your
right.
passion because you were doing something
Yes.
to help her, and you
Yes.
still continue to use that right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You should.
Yeah. And see, so again, so back to the question of how do you find your passion or your purpose? And I'm saying people can sometimes, it's being with and just noticing, because look, Mr. Pellegrin in Cuba, we spoke very little of the same language, but something in what he said, just the one thing. Could I be so ostentatious to live in this whole house when there are children around me who need to learn this and I have this space? That stayed with me. I had written lots and lots of notes from the conversation I had with him. That which I remembered in my heart was not in my notes. Wasn't in my notes, but it stayed with me until now. Even now, there are times I'm in my house in Ghana and I sometimes bring the kids in there for the reading club because something else might be going on at the school, or for some reason we're not doing it at the school, or something else is happening at the church house that we would sometimes do it in, and I bring them into my house. Yes, because
Yeah.
Mr. Pellegrin said, why do I have to live so ostentatiously? I'd never heard the word before. Why do I have to live so ostentatiously that I want to occupy this whole house when I could use it as a space to bring the young people in and teach them art? Yeah. And then here was this woman, Bawani, I have not forgotten her name, who, as she was going through her journey, and me just being a friend, we weren't visiting each other's homes. In fact, we didn't know each other's homes. We would only meet at lunchtime or on breaks. But our lives were connected. And so there it was. I was helping her more than I knew. And she was able to reflect back to me that this is what you're doing. And you are here to help me heal.
Yeah.
Yes. And we are all here to help each other heal. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Very true. All right. So talking about links across borders, I see you having a book series right now. Talk to us about that and how our
Hey.
audience could probably
Oh,
help with that.
listen. Thank you. I am so excited about that because, that book idea was in my heart for a long, long, long time. And then sometimes, these things get buried after a while. So I'm moving on with my life. And I kept in my reading clubs with the children. Again, we help each other heal. So the children are helping me heal, and the children are helping me find my way.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know this. They think I'm helping them find their way. It is true. And so I realized this from some of the questions I would get from children, how they get excited about who is the author and who is the illustrator and how the pictures come together. Because we would have those conversations with the children because I want them to understand that a book comes together by people putting their own ideas and their own skills into creating a book. So somebody draws the pictures and somebody writes the words and somebody puts the pages together and organizes it. So in our reading clubs, I would ask questions about those things, and I wanted them to understand that authors and illustrators were ordinary people like them and like me. They're not some from the clouds or something like that. And so one day, out of the blue, which is the way I do most big things, out of the blue, I made an announcement that we were going to be writing our own books. And they're looking at me like, wow, really, Mama? We're going to... I said, yes, you are going to be writing, and you will become the authors and the illustrators of the books. So I would look at the name of the author, and then I would replace the name of the author with somebody's name in the group, and we would go around the room and we'd be saying, oh, the title of the book, and we would name the author, would be one of them. And so we started I would say, okay, so write a story about such and such. And they would be writing stories and bringing stories to me. And from time to time, I would pull out a story long after they had given it to me, so that it's not a story you just gave me today. And I would say, okay, so now I'm going to read to you. You've been reading. They've been, we spend an hour and a half. They've been reading to each other and answering questions. And I would say, okay, so now I'm going to read to you a story. But what I would do is I would open the sheet of paper they had given me inside a book. So they would think I'm reading from this book.
Okay.
And I just open to a page and start reading. And they'd be looking and listening. And I'm sometimes watching the person who I knew was the one who wrote this story. And I might just be fixing the grammar a bit as I go along, but it is their story.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when they wouldn't recognize the story. Why is it? Because they cannot imagine themselves as authors.
Yes.
And I am reading from a book. So I decided, okay, we're going to do this. So I told them, each of us, we're going to be writing stories. And I'm doing, the first one is going to be going out this year. And then we're going to be doing compilation books or solo author books as we go along, but they will become authors. So the first book is now written. And I've worked on that one. And what we're doing is we're now at the stage of illustration. I found out that I didn't know how to write children's books. I've been an educator all my life, but I didn't know how to write children's stories. And I also remembered as I was going through this process that when I was in Teachers College, my literature professor said to me back then, he said, Sylvia, you should write children's stories. Yes, he said that to me. And by that time, I was in my 20s. When he said to me, you should write children's stories, you write amazing stories. But I couldn't see it happening, so I left it somewhere. And as I was going through this process, because I wanted now to be able to teach the children how to write stories as authors, I needed to learn. And as I was learning, I realized I really love this. I really love this. So I'm excited that the first book is now with the illustrator who is working on it, and we're doing this GoFundMe. We have a friend of mine told me this morning. I didn't look at it, but she told me that we're now just over 2,000, and our goal is 3,000. So I think your audience could just put us over the top now, because there's also someone who says, if you reach your goal of 3,000, I will match it.
So it's gonna get a
Please.
double.
That would be wonderful for us, you know. So that's a way that they can help us to reach our goal of 3,000. Well, in fact, this person said to me, you could increase your goal if you choose, because I will match it, whatever it is. I will match it up to 10,000. But my goal was already 3,000, so I kept it there, and I'm hoping that it will reach the 3,000. Yes. But I'm excited because, you know, a few months ago, one of the kids who was going off to high school, I heard a knock on my door there in my village in Ghana. And when I opened, it was her. And this is a young woman who I've known since she was in kindergarten. And here she is going off to high school. And so she came in with a beautiful white smile. And she said, Mama, I want to give you my story. I said, your story? What do you mean? She said, oh, remember the story for the book? I said, oh, okay. Because I was not thinking about that in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And she handed me the sheet of paper, and it was her story. Because she said, when I asked her, why are you giving it to me today? She said, because I don't know if I will be here when you are ready for the book. What that tells me is that I planted that seed in them. And even when I am not remembering in the moment, they are thinking about it every day. I am going to be an author.
Yes.
I am going to be an author. You don't know what that means for me. For me, that's everything. Because children in rural village who have never been to the town that is closest to their village are now dreaming of becoming authors whose books will be read all over the world. Sister, that's medicine for me. The impact of that, yes, it's immeasurable, you know. So I'm over the moon excited about that. And I know we're going to reach our goal of 3,000. I'm asking people to join, and you can donate anonymously. Some people don't want to donate on GoFundMe because they don't want to put their name there, but you
Yes.
can do it anonymously. So just do it anonymously for us.
Share the link of where people can go to donate for that.
They can find it on our Facebook page and on Instagram, but I'll send it to you and you'll post it to your people.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So again, the website is linksacrossborders.org.
Yes.
I am going to put all the links in the description below.
Yes.
I typically tell people GoFundMe, it's not for, like, people should stop the GoFundMe tradition. But the tradition I'm saying to stop is the one where we don't prepare for our lives for death. And we're telling people to go and contribute for that. This is a great cause, guys.
Yes.
On this podcast, we are building bridges. And Sylvia is doing exactly that. Her company is Links Across Borders, and they are helping children in Ghana right now. Yes. Even though she's not even African, she's from Jamaica. She's Canadian, and now she's chosen Ghana as her place, and she is making a huge impact right there. She already built 8 libraries in Ghana, in some of the little villages right there. Yes. And right now she's starting this mission of making those kids to dream of something that we probably never dreamed of in our lifetimes to become authors.
Mhm.
So if you're listening to those guys, please click on the link in the description below and go and support Sylvia. If we make it to get to $3,000,
Yes.
somebody is going to match that donation. So please let's build bridges.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would love that.
We pack our bags and we move to Canada to start life here. Sylvia has packed her bags away from Canada to start life in a different place. If you have that in your heart, if you have that as a calling and you're wondering how it makes sense for you to move away from here to go and do something elsewhere, just know it doesn't matter where you choose to live.
Mm.
The point is to live in your purpose, find your passion, find your calling, live in your purpose, and the rest is going to take care of itself.
Yes. Yes. And if they're looking for help to figure out how to do that, I'd be happy to help. I help people connect with the dreams in their heart and take inspired action. Yes.
Awesome. If anybody wanted to reach out to you, where's the best platform to reach you?
On my website, sylviamorrison.com.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Hmm.
And any final word for the audience?
You know, my moving to Ghana started for me when it was for a Christmas party. I'd given a donation to fund a Christmas party, and we are now in the Christmas season. And so this might be the time to give a donation towards Links Across Borders mission in Ghana. And if you would love to visit us in Ghana, I've built a guest house so that you can come.
Beautiful.
Building bridges.
Building bridges. I might just make it to Ghana very soon.
Yes. Would love that. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. And thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye
All
now.
right.
We're not here to judge you, but rather work with you to get back into the workforce. You have to do what you have to do to find the peace and the satisfaction that you need. And this is why we've created what we created at Grow and Still Created, is to have the room for that.